Yay, here we go. Happy Thursday. Getting excited for this topic. I mean, who am I kidding? I'm excited about every topic, but I really love this topic and how it really brings to light something that so many people do and don't even realize. So I'm excited about bringing awareness to covert contracts. Hello, hello, hello. Come on in, jump in the chat. I'm going to get started here in just a moment. Oh, and I need to turn notifications on. Put this on Do Not Disturb. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. I'm Heather. My friends tend to call me Nookie. I am excited to talk to you today about covert contracts and how they apply to your boundaries. In addition to writing books, teaching classes, doing workshops like this about love, sex, romance, and kink for people of all genders, relationship statuses, orientations, and more. I also enjoy traveling and reading and cooking. There's an interesting fact about me. I am lucky that in my life, I've had some amazing partners who have been as curious about the world and love and romance and sexuality as I have been. And I've gotten to explore so many different aspects of how people relate to one another. I'm incredibly blessed. All of my experiences thus far, here at the age of 49, have led me to the belief that boundaries are the key to not only saving ourselves, but our relationships. Excuse me. Boundaries are what take us from getting by or merely average to healthy, loving, strong, and fan-fucking-tastic. So let's get started. I'll kick us off, as usual, with an introduction to my book and how I'm writing it. Hello, Womanopolis. Hello, Sabyasachi. Lovely to see you. I am writing my new book, Boundaries Are Sexy as Fuck, right now, and you can get access to the chapters as I write and post them by registering for the Take No Shit workshop that I began on Monday, October 17th. We are just today starting in on week 2 of a 7-week process, and it is sort of a go at your own pace. So you can jump in at any time using this link right here. It is, like I said, it's a 7-week workshop. If you choose to pay full price, you'll be paying $27, which is less than $4 per week. But you can choose your own price and go as low as $7, which is a whopping $1 per week. So I would love to have any and all of you in the Take No Shit workshop. And in fact, I'll be doing this week's Take No Shit live as soon as I wrap up here today. So, hello everyone. It is lovely to see you. Today, we are talking about covert contracts and how they ruin your relationship. So let's get started. Have you ever heard of covert contracts? Now, if you've been following me for a while, you absolutely have, because they are one of the soapboxes that I like to get up on and educate people about. Because I believe that even understanding that covert contracts exist can help you reshape your relationships to the positive. And so I talk about covert contracts semi-regularly. And when it comes to boundaries, they are a wonderful thing to be aware of and to understand. So covert contracts are really crazy things. They're these unspoken expectations that we carry with us into a relationship where we start doing things for others, believing that by doing things for them, they will then do things for us. Yeah. Like, have you ever treated somebody as you wanted to be treated and then were disappointed when they didn't give that same thing back to you? I think all of us have had that experience, right? Maybe like you gave them the benefit of the doubt in an argument. And the next time you had a bit of a row, you were waiting for them to give it back to you, but they didn't. And you're like, but wait, what? What the fudge? Right? That is a covert contract. And that type of expectation will ruin every relationship that you allow it to sneak into, every single one of it, because they create overburden and overwhelm. So I'm not talking about like life and kids and having to do the laundry here, right? I'm talking about feeling overwhelmed by the things you feel like you have to do to keep the relationship going. Or even if we break it down even further, the fact that you feel like you have to keep the relationship going, maybe mostly by yourself. And that feeling is a sure sign that you've entered into a covert contract with your partner. You following here? Sabyasachi says, yes, we've all been there. We all fall for that whole thing we're taught as kids, the golden rule, treat others as you would want to be treated. Yeah. No, that doesn't actually work. We actually need to treat others as they want to be treated. And even then, we need to be aware of boundaries and assumptions and expectations. So, what is a covert contract? Let's look at this a little bit more deeply. A covert contract is an agreement that you believe exists emotionally, even if you have not actually communicated it to your partner and gotten their consent. In fact, you may not even be consciously aware of it. So a covert contract sounds like this. I will fill in the blank for you so that, right? You think this in your head. Oh, if I do this for them, then they will. When was the last time you had that conversation with yourself? I'm guessing it wasn't that long ago because, again, we've all done this, right? Or how about in your head again, they will do this for me and then I will do XYZ, right? But you don't tell them that they need to do this for you. So you might be sitting there kind of twiddling your thumbs, waiting for that thing to come along. And then the issue is that neither partner will really have full awareness of this contract, right? Or sometimes just act as if we don't for a variety of reasons, because if we acknowledge it, then we have to communicate. Sabyasachi says, I've had that experience with many work colleagues. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. That is exactly like you're going to have this experience with work colleagues, with friends, with family. Well, I did this for you last week. Well, yeah, you did. So, right? That doesn't mean that I'm going to do this other thing. If you wanted to trade for this other thing, maybe you should have said that explicitly. Right? Here's one that I'm sure a lot of people would be familiar with, or something similar. How about if I cook, my partner does the dishes? That is generally one of mine. But if I cook and then I expect them to do the dishes without explicitly speaking to them about it, I've just made a covert contract. I've made an agreement in my head that they have not had the chance to consent to. And I am, for lack of a better term, doing my best to manipulate them into doing what I want and hope and expect. Hello, Ramon. Covert contracts imply you are giving up your boundaries to acquiesce to norms and is fraught with danger. Absolutely. And sometimes it's not even necessarily that you're giving up your boundaries. Sometimes it's not a boundary, like, I cook, they clean. I don't have a boundary around cooking. They don't have a boundary around cleaning, but it's not consensual either, right? And maybe that's really where the boundary is, right? Don't try to manipulate me into doing something you want me to do. That's not fair. It's not right. And it's not something that those of us who are on our boundaries journeys, who understand that boundaries and ethics are the flip side of the same coin, will want to do to others, right? So many occurrences of, but you saw me do it, so why didn't you understand? Yeah. Carolyn, sounds like what a narcissist does. Yes, there are probably a lot of diagnosable disorders who do this, but I would be very careful of falling into the trap of thinking that only narcissists or only psychopaths or sociopaths or abusers or whatever do this, because you do it. I do it. We all have done it, and we will all do it again in the future, even trying to be aware of it. So I think it's important that we look at these behaviors as things that come along with being human. And when they are taken to extreme, and there are many multiple problematic behaviors piled one on top of another, we simply say, that person is not a good fit for me, right? We don't have to say that they're abusive. We don't have to say that they're toxic. We don't have to say that they're a narcissist or whatever. We simply say, you know what? Where I am in my life right now, that's not a good fit for me. And just as a note, let me check my calendar here. So coming up, I want to say, okay, well, I can't say because my computer isn't showing me the right information. Coming up, I actually have a What is Toxic Anyway YouTube Live. There we go. On the 3rd. So 1 week from today, we're going to be talking about what is toxic anyway and focusing in on these behaviors that could be narcissism, could be abuse, could be all of these things. But really, when it comes right down to it, we don't have to know if they're actually narcissistic or if they're abusive or whatever. We just have to know that they're not a good fit for us. And thank you very much. Goodbye. Right? Hello, Roger. Always a pleasure. If I do something for someone, I expect nothing, then I can't be disappointed. Okay, so that's better in some ways. However, it also, that particular statement has the feeling to me of maybe putting up a bit of a wall or a barrier. The then I can't be disappointed part. So what I would say is when I do things for people, I don't expect things in return because I've already received enough in our relationship to make doing that thing something I want to do. Make sense? And then I expect in our relationship moving forward, there will be a balance, right? That they will give back to me, not necessarily in a very particular way, but overall, so that we are filling each other up. Carolyn says toxic is toxic. So I'm going to disagree with that. Because I'm pretty sure that you've been in a relationship with somebody who calls you awful names. I don't know what names they called you. I know that I've been in relationships where people called me a controlling bitch, people called me crazy, people called me unrealistic, and so on and so on and so forth, right? Does that make me toxic? Does it make me crazy? Does it make me a controlling bitch? No. What it did was it pointed to the fact that we were not a good fit, right? And so I think that a perception of toxic is just that, a perception. And who I get along with and like is not going to be the same as you get along with and like, and that's okay as well, right? Get two people together that are not good with each other, and they might be toxic to each other, but that doesn't mean they are toxic. That's how I present, and that's what I tend to focus on in these things. So, Ramon, back to collaborate versus compromise. Yeah, I'm always going to do that. I'm always make that distinction whenever I have the opportunity. And dating kinky, unrealistic expectations. Absolutely. I mean, that's a big deal, right? But not even, it doesn't, the thing is that it doesn't even have to be unrealistic expectations. Expectations without communication. That's what a covert contract is. It doesn't mean it's unrealistic. Is it unrealistic for me to hope that somebody is going to do dishes if I make a big effort in cleaning? I don't think that that's unrealistic. If I don't communicate it, though, if I don't negotiate it, if I don't get their buy-in, then it's just kind of shitty of me, right? So how about some more examples? I got you. How about And I'm gonna give you these examples, and I'm gonna take you through some steps talking about, what these might look like as covert contracts and then how to fix them. So, like, let's say you do a chore like the dishes, because everyone loves doing the dishes, right? So you do the dishes when you don't normally, so that your partner won't complain about you watching the game later. How's that one? Or here's one that I think we've all been through from one side or another. Take your partner out for a special occasion, maybe Valentine's Day. So you expect that you're going to get lucky, right? What about you're feeling a little down, so you go through and you do this big clean in the house so that when your partner comes home, they're going to say something nice to you and you feel like you've gotten recognition. Or maybe instead of taking you out to get sex, to get from somebody, you give up sex in order to get love. Giving sex in order to get affection. Or how about you agree to see that movie that you don't really want to see, expecting that the next time around you'll both go to see yours. Oh, hey, Celine. Right. Transactional and not genuine. And the thing is that transactional is okay when everybody gets to agree to it, right? Expectations versus reality. Yeah. So none of those things are inherently bad, right? They're transactional, sure. But the fact that you don't communicate them is the problem. Giving to others, hoping to get something in return. And when you don't get what you expect, you become frustrated. And when your frustration builds, it eventually comes out in the form of rage, passive aggressive behavior, pouting, shaming, blaming. And that sequence can chronically repeat itself. So you're constantly giving what you hope will get you something in return. You're not getting your needs met. Or on the other side of things, you've been trapped into the role of being blamed for someone else's unstated needs. Or, and this is far more common, both of you in a relationship do this in large and small ways to each other as you jockey for power and control. Ugh. Right? Ew. Carolyn says, sounds like the lack of conversation and understanding from both sides are what compromise the relationship expectations. Absolutely. And what I'll tell you though is this, and it's important that everyone here understands. We all do this throughout our lives. Like, we've all said to somebody, hey, I did this, I were going to do that. Well, why didn't you just say so? And that's in really small ways, right? But we've also probably every single one of us had a huge row about something like this that, maybe built up over time because we didn't communicate exactly what we were trying to get out of things. And it's important to understand that we all find these traps in our lives that we set for the people that we love, or that we accidentally step into by the people that we love. And learning to recognize them can make a huge difference. Sabyasachi says, expectations are a natural tendency in life. Yes, They absolutely are. The challenge is, though, is knowing when you actually have a right to an expectation because you have negotiated and discussed and gotten consent to a particular relationship dynamic, and when you don't really have a right and it should be made as a request. Roger, giving up sex. It sounds like a chore, LOL. Never thought of it that way. Maybe it's the guy in me. And so for you, it's different. For some people, giving up sex absolutely is a chore. Now, I've been on both sides of this. Like, I love sex, but when it's expected of me or when I'm pressured into it, then it absolutely does feel like a chore. When relationships are strained or they've not actually been courting me or doing the things to keep a relationship going, I'm feeling taken for granted. And yet, on the other side of things, I've actually been in relationships where, and I'm not, proud to admit it, I've pressured people for sex, right? We all do this. We're humans. The answer is to begin looking at how we think about these things. Carolyn, like it's an obligation. Absolutely. And when something as beautiful and intimate as sex becomes an obligation, you're not winning at your relationshiping, are you? Not so much. So I bet every single one of you has had a covert contract executed against you at least once, right? So let's talk about that sex, Roger. Let's talk about the different ways that covert contracts can pop up around sex. A lot of femme presenting people can probably relate to this one. I took you out to dinner and now I'm suddenly pressuring you for the sex I expect to get. Right? Or I gave you all this good sex and now I'm subtly pressuring you to be my partner. Right? You might have thought that this was just in good fun, but now I'm telling you that my sex comes with strings. How about, I love you so much, and it physically hurts me to remain celibate. You love me and don't want me to hurt, do you? That's probably very much a teenage sort of thing, although I know some adults probably pull that one off as well. Blue balls, right? How about, we've been seeing each other for weeks. Don't you think it's about time that we do the nasty? Or, I got the kids out of the house for the night. Don't you want to take advantage of the quiet? Hint, hint, hint. All of those are covert contracts. Rather than simply coming out and saying, hey, I really enjoy this. How do you feel about this? Let's negotiate. Let's talk about it. Right? Yes, and it feels bad both ways. Yeah, it does. It feels bad to be pressured for sex. It feels bad to feel like you have to pressure somebody to have sex with you, somebody that you love, somebody that's important to you, right? You want them to want to have sex with you. So, an easy way to recognize a covert contract, whenever you're in an argument and you bring up all the things you do for the other person, to point them out, because you feel like they might have missed them. After all the lies I've told for you. Wait, what? I never asked you to lie for me. After I went to that swing club with you. Wait, I thought you enjoyed that too. I worked so hard to keep this place spotless. Oh, for frick's sake, take a break. I want you happy more than I want to be able to eat off the floor. I'm constantly agreeing to what you want, and I never get to do what I want. Well, gosh, when I ask you what you'd like to do, you never give me any suggestions. I give you hugs all the time. I'm not a super big hugger, and I didn't know you wanted me to give you hugs too. I'm not a freaking mind reader. Sounds pretty dysfunctional. Carolyn says, there's seemingly always a hidden agenda. So in covert contracts, there is. Covert contracts are, by their definition, manipulation of somebody instead of just saying right out, hey, here's what I want and need. Roger, I guess I just never thought of it that way, and to the best of my knowledge, have never pressured anyone, even my wife. Excellent. Fantastic. There are, of course, millions of ways that you could do covert contracts. I'm glad that you don't do them that way. Womanopolis asks, have you ever been to a swinger club? Oh, yes. Okay, so covert contracts obviously can be nefarious, right? Many times it's misguided rather than malevolent, because most of us are never taught how to communicate or negotiate in relationships, or exactly what boundaries are and how they work. So it's not that you think you're going to get things handed to you. It's just that you probably think, well, if someone did that for me, I would respond this way. Et voila! A covert contract is born, right? And this is why the golden rule, treat everyone as you would like to be treated, is misleading. And the platinum rule, treat everyone as they would like to be treated, is more informing, as it encourages you to ask, hey, how would you like to be treated? So how do you avoid covert contracts? Well, avoid creating covert contracts yourself. Start communicating. Say what you want and need, and give whomever a chance to agree with you or to move to negotiations. And let's be clear, they might say no. But if that's their answer, they probably would have balked anyway, and you wouldn't have gotten what you wanted, covert contract, and you would have been out the effort you spent paying into that exchange, right? And they could do worse than say no, which I cover in a different chapter in the Boundaries Are Sexy as Fuck book that I'm working on, which, by the way, for those of you who are interested, I am writing a book, Boundaries Are Sexy as Fuck, live. I am posting it chapter by chapter, and you can read it as I post each chapter if you join up for my boundary setting take no shit workshop right there. Yep. So using the examples that I've already given you, like you do the dishes when you don't normally, so your partner won't complain about the game. So how would we turn this around? Let's try communicating. Hey, I'd like to watch the game this evening. I know you like to relax after cleaning up. How about I do the dishes and you can relax in a bubble bath or in the garage with your car tinkering while I cheer for my team, right? I'll check in on you during the commercial breaks to see if you need anything. Or better yet, I'd really love to watch the game tonight. Is there anything I can do for you or help with that will make your night better? Communication. Here's what I'd like. What would you like? Right? Carolyn says, I don't think people truly talk about their real wants, needs, and thoughts. Either they don't think to ask them or they don't care to know. I think there's more to it than that. I think that many people are afraid. I think that many people have been taught as they were growing up that their wants and needs and thoughts don't matter by people who just ignored them or dismissed them. I think there's a lot of reasons that people don't do that. And it's something that, as humans, it's ideal if we can all work on it and get better at it. So the second one that I'd mention is like you take your partner out for a special event or Valentine's Day so that you can get sex. So how about instead try communicating, I've got this amazing dinner planned and all night I'll be doing my best to rev your engine for some amazing hot sex after. Any requests? Or better yet, I'd really love to be intimate tonight, and it seems we've been out of sync lately. What would you like me to do to make you feel amazing and loved and in the mood? Right? Carolyn says, do you think that that's a trauma response? Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And so, and the thing that's important to understand is when I say something is a trauma response, trauma could be what to others might seem to be very little, but it was enough to trigger the brain into a different behavior pattern. So yes, absolutely. Not communicating wants and needs and thoughts is often absolutely a trauma response. How about the one I mentioned earlier? You clean the house in order to get some positive reinforcement and recognition. So instead, try communicating. I've been doing an amazing job in the house lately, and it seems you haven't really noticed. Could you plan a nice date night for me to show me how much you appreciate my efforts around the home? Or better yet, I'd really love to get some affection and appreciation for the things I do around the house. I know we've both been crazy busy. Perhaps we can plan a date night for each other to relax and connect. What do you think? How about, this is one I think, well, I know several of us in here are familiar with. You give up sex or you rush into sex to get more affection, right? Instead, try communicating. I'd really like some cuddle time. How about tonight we cuddle while we watch fill in the blank, and you can say sweet things to me, and after we'll have amazing sex. Or better yet, I need some physical affection without it turning into sex. Can you give me lots of pets and hugs and cuddles and such all night tonight? Right? Super simple. Now, you may not like any of these options, and that's 100% okay. The point that I'm making, obviously, is that you have to actually speak the words to your partner for them to know what you want. Otherwise, you're busy fulfilling your side of a contract that the other party doesn't even know exists. So here's a question for you. Do you sometimes feel used in relationships? When you're being used, You are giving something of yours or of yourself to receive something in return, and you don't get it. And most often, this is not explicitly stated, which is why it's so insidious. If it's not explicitly stated, like the above examples, you don't have to take responsibility for not following up with what you expect. Let's say that again, right? If you feel used in relationships, it's because you are giving something of yours or of yourself to receive something in return. And if you have not specifically stated it and negotiated it and agreed to it, they don't have to take responsibility for not following up with what you expect. Note, this is also where gaslighting is a powerfully effective weapon. Because if they can offer vague assurances, then say they didn't, or that's not what they meant, they can really mess with your head, right? And if it's not explicitly stated, if it's not explicitly communicated, if it's not negotiated to and agreed to, they can use your desire for whatever against you by seeming to imply that they will give you whatever in return. If you don't communicate your thoughts, your wants, and your needs, they can use your fear of being rejected to manipulate you. They can get around your boundaries by using your compassion, your giving nature, and your love against you. And again, if you don't get in the habit of saying, this is what I want from a relationship, and this is what I'm willing to give, and talking that out with somebody, they can use your love, your giving, and your covert contracts against you. Because simply having a covert contract means that you are doing things for the result, which touches on the no regrets lifestyle training that I'll be introducing as part of the Take No Shit workshop. It's actually a bonus to the Take No Shit workshop. It's no regrets lifestyle training, and it goes deeper into covert contracts and how to make decisions in your life and never regret them. To do something because you want to, because it feels right, regardless of the result. To do something because you want to and because it feels right, regardless of the result, is how you live life with no regrets. Good results are preferred and appreciated, of course. So I'm on this Facebook page called Let's Not Date. And yesterday there was a screenshot of a conversation where the first thing somebody said in the conversation was head, head, and the conversation went about as you'd expect. Well, no head, and he got quite pissy and so on and so forth. And somebody in the comments said, well, he wouldn't have done that if other females hadn't taught him it was okay. So that's the opposite way to think from living a no regrets lifestyle. In that you do what you do because it feels good and because it's the right thing. And if you don't get the results you wanted, it is what it is. Because what you wanted more was to do what's good and what's right. And we're actually going to be talking about that in 15 minutes. I'm going to be hopping on another live, the second live of this run through of the Take No Shit workshop, where we're going to be talking about who we are. And we're going to be talking about the cognitive dissonance that we experience that often leads us to do things that we don't necessarily think are good and right. But there's something getting in the way of us choosing what's good and right. And so we're going to talk about how that harms us and how to get around that. So how do we avoid being used through our expectations or unacknowledged covert contracts? By ruthlessly finding the covert contracts we create with others in our lives and either just letting them go or communicating them. I'd really like to watch the game this evening. I want to make love with you. I feel fulfilled when you tell me that you appreciate me. I'd like to get clear on where we are in this relationship. Of course, it's not enough to just take responsibility for your own needs and expectations, but to also set boundaries around what others want from you in their covert contracts. So that when someone tries to execute an expectation against you that you did not agree to, refuse to take responsibility for it. Using the examples I've been using, well, I did the dishes for you so I could watch the game this evening. I wish you'd said something, then I would have planned to relax this evening instead of watching the premiere of insert show here. But I took you out for an expensive meal. Oh, well, I mean, if you'd made it clear that you wanted to exchange dinner for sex, I would have made it clear that that was something I'm willing to do at this point in our relationship. I cleaned the house from top to bottom yesterday, and you didn't even thank me. Baby, you didn't have to work so hard. All you needed to do was speak up. I'm always happy to tell you how much I appreciate you. You could at least say that you love me after using me for sex. I would tell you that I love you if and when it feels right to me. I do very much enjoy sex with you, and I hope to continue. Although I understand if you need to find someone who is more emotionally invested, though. When it's something you can be flexible on or give into, by all means, do it. Don't be obstreperous just to make a point. But also, pardon me, don't let your boundaries flex just because they laid a guilt trip on you. In fact, my first big fight with my partner was over 9 years ago now. And he had come into town. We lived about 2.5 hours apart at the time. He had come into town to spend the evening with me and met me at a party. And when we got back to my house, he was quite upset because he felt that we'd stayed at the party much longer than necessary. And he only had a certain amount of time and he wanted to spend it with me one on one. He was very upset. And I said, I'm sorry, I didn't know that that's what you wanted. I absolutely would have been willing to leave earlier if you had said something. And so, really, I'm sorry I hurt you. I'm also not taking responsibility for trying to read your mind. I don't know how to read your mind. I never will read your mind. You have to communicate to me, and you didn't. So, how was I supposed to know? Well, you should have known I was coming in to see you, not all of those people I didn't know. How am I supposed to know that? How am I supposed to know that you weren't enjoying the party the way that I was? That was a covert contract in that he came to this party for me and expected I would know he would want to leave early to spend one-on-one time. I had no idea. And he was grumpy that night and never quite got out of it. In the morning, we were a little bit happier and like sort of lovey-dovey. And then when he got in his car on the way home, he stewed over it for a while and he called me up and we continued arguing. And I held my ground. I really liked him. I really, really, really liked him and really loved his energy and really wanted to make this work. And there was no way that I was going to set a precedent of allowing anyone in my life to hold me accountable for something I did not agree to, I was not communicated about, and I had no way of knowing. So it's not enough to just watch your own covert contracts. It's also important to make sure and maintain your boundaries against others. Are you with me on this? So, a word of warning. When you feel awe and wonder and pure happiness and joy and thankfulness to be where you are, able to do the things you do for and with your partner, you're not in a covert contract. And that's an amazing feeling when you get there. I live there most of the time. Sometimes, though, the shift is subtle. And I barely even notice when I slip out of my awe and wonder and into blah, 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 blah headspace. Covert contracts and unacknowledged expectations will creep into your life in the most bizarre, unexpected ways. Believe me, I know this. When I was writing about this, maybe a month or two ago, about covert contracts, the night before, literally the night before I was writing about covert contracts, I realized that I'd had an expectation that I had not voiced. And I had not only created a covert contract with my partner, but that I was executing it in my mind and getting all sorts of salty about my unstated desires not being met. Be vigilant. ruthlessly ferret out your own covert contracts and communicate them. Or just kill them dead, let them go, whatever. And protect your own boundaries from others' covert contracts and expectations. I have 5 more minutes. Do we have any additional questions? Ask me at least 2 questions. I want to see 2 questions about covert contracts. Give me a question or 2. And while you're doing that, I'm going to remind everyone who's here that I am writing a book about boundaries called Boundaries Are Sexy as Fuck, working title. Right there, right there. And you can join me and read it chapter by chapter as I post it by joining the Take No Shit workshop. The Take No Shit workshop is a 7-week workshop. You can work through it at your own pace. It is, if you pay full price, it's a whopping $4, $27, $4 per week. If you choose your own price, you can go as low as $7. And that is $1 per week. And that's because right now the Take No Shit workshop is in beta testing. So everyone in that workshop right this very moment are willing to be my guinea pigs and get what is going to be a $150 to $200 workshop for a heck of a lot less, as I'm going through and making sure that everything is absolutely wonderfully understandable. So, I'm Nookie or Heather Claus. And excellent. How do you catch yourself doing it? And how do you communicate to your significant other, this is what's going on? How do I catch myself? Oof. Usually when in my head, I'm sitting there thinking, why haven't they done this? And I expected them to do this. And why haven't they done it? And then I pause and I ask myself, but have I specifically told them what I want? And if the answer is no, if the answer is I have not specifically communicated exactly what I want, then I've just executed a covert contract. And so this actually happened the other night. It was a small one. I sent a little message. He was going out for the evening cycling with his friends. I sent a little flirty message. And when he came home, he climbed into bed and was out like a light relatively quickly. I said to him the next day, I'm like, so I didn't realize it at the time, but that little flirty message was designed to make you want to come home and smooch on me and wake me up and get all like affectionate with me. So I was a little disappointed. I don't hold it against you because I was not clear about that, but there you go. And he was like, I was really tired after cycling and whatever, but I will keep that in mind. That's simple. Thank you, Sabyasachi. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you, Roger. Have a wonderful day. Okay, y'all, I got to get off here and I've got to get on my next one for the Take No Shit workshop. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me. I will look forward to seeing you next Tuesday at noon Eastern. Bye, y'all.